Welcome to Believe in Chiefs, part of the Believe Network. Joined by former Chiefs offensive lineman Joe Valerio, I'm Jeff Wadoten. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, and follow this podcast and tell all of your Chiefs fans to do the same. You can also watch us on Believe TV around the country in airports and on YouTube. On this week's show, we welcome actor, comedian, and diehard Chiefs fan Rob Riggle. Rob, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you, Rob. Thank you so much. I mean, obviously, we could spend this entire podcast talking about all the things you've done in the entertainment industry, but I do first want to say thank you for your service. I think that is absolutely amazing and incredible transition in the entertainment industry, but very honorable, and appreciate all that you did for and have done and will continue to do for our country. So thank you for that.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Rob, last time we actually spoke, it was Super Bowl week. It was for a Miller Lite campaign that you did a very funny ad. And you were in Las Vegas and you were, Super Bowl 58 was about to happen. You were in a kind of tenuous spot for tickets. Did that come through? Tell us how you ended up watching Super Bowl 58, if you ended up going to Arrowhead West.
Yeah.
Or if you...
Well, I had been under the impression, and maybe it was a miscommunication, but I had thought that I had tickets. Mm-hmm. So, I rolled up to Vegas and called in what favors I had left to get a room, because that town was packed, and thought I was all good to go. I called my contact, said, "All right, so how are we doing the ticket thing?" He's like, "There ain't no tickets," which is like the last thing you want to hear, because you're like, I was up there. I had allotted the time. It's like, so I had to start from scratch, and I just started reaching out to some people that I thought might have an angle on potential tickets. And I was very lucky. I called my old boss at Fox NFL, Bill. I'll protect his anonymity, but I called Bill, and I just said, "Listen, man, my tickets fell through. I don't know if you have an angle on anything. Obviously, I'm not looking for any handouts, but I'm just looking for tickets." And he said, "Let me see what I can do." So he found some for me. God bless him, and got me. So I was able to get into the game. So the whole weekend was not lost, and thank God, because it was another Chiefs beauty.
Classic.
And I was surrounded by 49ers fans. Once again, I don't know, like when I went to the Eagles Super Bowl, I was in a sea of green. I take the tickets however I can get them. So I would love to be in the Chiefs section one time, but whatever. I don't care. I'm just there. And so I was surrounded by Eagles fans, and I had to take their abuse, except for the end of the game. They all vanished. It's amazing how they all just vanished into the ether. And the 49ers, I was in a 49ers section. It was kind of mixed. It was better than the Eagles one, but it was mixed. And the guys sitting behind me were hardcore 49ers fans. And they were gentlemen, though. They were gentlemen. So I did appreciate that, because they cheered for their team as they should. And I cheered for my team as I should. And we did not have conflict. Like I wasn't sitting there just saying terrible things about the 49ers or, screaming and bitching and moaning. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. When the Chiefs did something good, I cheered. When their team did something good, they cheered. We were able to look at each other and acknowledge, and it was a very good thing. It reminded me of the old America.
It was shocking.
So it was
that there were more
mutual understanding
than the Philly fans.
Yeah.
Joe's a Philly guy, so we like to make fun of the Philly fan base.
Yeah. So Rob, I was that kid, that had never been further west than Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'd never been on a plane before until I got drafted by the Chiefs, and I'm going to my wife. My wife and I have been dating since high school, and we looked at each other and said, "Is it Kansas City, Kansas? Is it Kansas City, Missouri? Like, where are we going?"
Yeah, a lot to learn.
And we, but I didn't have a lot to learn about Philadelphia fans, though. It's brutal here in Philadelphia, which actually, I'm saying here, I'm in Topeka today, which is great. Okay. So I'm doing some business out in Topeka. And but but Philadelphia, it's rough, Rob. It's rough. And when the Eagles and the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl, what my wife and I did is we had some Jack Stacks flown in on
Beautiful.
dry ice. We had it shipped
Oh,
in,
so good.
but we had that on one side of the room, and we had cheesesteaks and hoagies on the other side of the room, and said, let your stomachs decide who you're going to root for,
Yeah.
people, because
Yeah.
I'm not making that choice, having grown up here and played for this team. So so it was a win-win situation for me. I'm glad the Chiefs won.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
You played it
exciting.
well. You played it well. I mean,
Yeah.
that's you can't go wrong food wise anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And we need Rob to petition for a little appearance on the in the Heights pod, or the New Heights podcast with Travis. If you see Travis, Rob, tell him, like, listen, you got to get this Valerio kid, right? He was a
Yeah.
center for the Chiefs. He caught touchdowns. He's from Philly. Like, I'm Bizarro Travis Kelsey, to do a
That's
Seinfeld
it. It makes
reference.
sense to me. I had Travis on my podcast a couple times actually, and I play golf with him every now and then whenever I get the chance.
Nice.
Um, I'll drop a word, man. I'll drop a word.
Well, tell him there's a wide receiver. I mean, a really
Rob.
wide receiver who needs to tell some good Philly, Kansas City stories and some old school Chief stories. I got to bring the old school Chief stuff back to
Please
to
do.
Travis and Jason.
Please do. Please, I would love to hear those stories.
Rob, tell us, you mentioned how you had Kelsey on your podcast. I'm sure listeners are big fans of yours. Tell us about your Riggles Picks podcast for all the listeners out there.
Well, a few years before COVID, I started doing it with a friend of mine, Sarah Tiana, who's a great comedian, really knowledgeable sports comedian. Um, she makes a lot of appearances on sports shows and just funny lady. And so we did a podcast together. Then COVID hit. Then she had a baby, and there was all this stuff. So we just decided to take a break from it. Um, then I brought it back. She had already started doing some other things, so I brought it back with another friend of mine, Darren Leader, who is a wonderful, funny guy. I play golf with him a lot, and he's a great musician. And just a great hang. So I said, well, why don't you come do this thing with me? So that's how it's literally playing golf. I was like, you ought to do this with me. He's like, yeah, I'd love to. And that's how these things get started. Men are very simple. We don't need lawyers. We don't have to dig in on this stuff. I like this guy. He's good company. He makes me laugh. We have good conversation. Come on, let's do it. Let's do it. So we did it. And we're just wrapping up season 1. Probably next month, I think we'll wrap it up. And we're getting ready to do season 2, and it's been a blast. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of fun people come on the show.
That's awesome.
I love it. I love it.
You mentioned, you're obviously very good luck for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Rob, what games are you planning on going to this year? I know you go to a lot of them. Do you have your schedule yet? I know you've also got a lot of projects up in the air too. So I know it's not easy every Sunday to go.
Well, this fall is it's very much a blessing that I'm busy. Show business is a tricky business, so I'm very happy that I'm busy. I'm going to be shooting a movie in Kansas City this fall. I'm very excited about that. And to your point about Chiefs games, I'm coming back for the home opener and the season
Nice.
opener and the league opener. Ravens Chiefs. I'll be there, and I'm going to be out in the parking lot hosting a tailgate with the Chiefs, and hopefully getting off on the right foot. And yes, I am a good luck charm. I heard you mention that. I've been to 3 Super Bowls, and they've won all 3. I'm just saying. Okay, the one I didn't go to, they didn't win.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. Do I deserve a ring? I don't know. That's not for me to decide.
I think so. I absolutely think so. I think you deserve some betting cred too in Vegas. I mean, my God, if it's going to be a new prop bet, the Riggle bet.
I do that every year. I go. I find myself in Vegas in the summer, whenever, and I like to put down, just a C note, just a little something, on the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl. Sometimes it's to make the Super Bowl, sometimes to win the Super Bowl. Lately, it's been to win the Super Bowl, and it's been awesome. I keep those tickets. I frame them. They work out all the time. So I don't even cash them half the time, just because I'm so proud of them. But I'm going to do the same thing this year. I'm going out to Vegas over Labor Day, and I'm going to be hosting on Netflix, live on Netflix, the battle of all battles. I mean, this is right up there with Yankees, Red Sox, Chiefs, Raiders. It's up there. It's Chestnut versus Kobayashi in
Nice.
a exclusive um, uh, eating competition, hot dog eating competition. Very specific rules. Like, these guys are very serious. I don't know if they're fans of each other either. I mean, this is a grudge match.
Yeah.
So anyway, while I'm out there, I'm going to place a bet on the Chiefs. You know I am.
Wow.
Nice.
So
Well, it was
speaking
And I
huge
might even, the way
controversy.
things are going this year, I might even bet on the Royals too.
There you go. Well, I mean, Rob, it's a great timing on the eating contest because huge controversy this year in Coney Island, obviously with Joey Chestnut being there because of the veggie dog or whatever the veggie company that he was sponsoring. I mean, that was like huge controversy here on the East Coast. I mean,
Yeah,
because
this storyline is just
yeah,
packed with intrigue and headlines and rivalries and reputations. And I mean, there's a lot. There's people, you hear it and you think, oh, hot dog, whatever. No, this, you don't want to miss this. The stakes are
yeah.
high.
This
Well,
week,
Rob,
it's a championship week for Rob Riggle coming up. He not only has the champion eaters, then he's got the two-time defending champion Chiefs that he's going to be at. There's all intertwined. If you can somehow get Andy Reid in a barbecue eating contest, we've really got everything going,
yeah,
crossing over.
That'd almost be too much. I think I don't know if the universe can handle that. That would be too much.
the
I
the
did have, I
internet
did
would
have,
break.
I did have Patrick Mahomes on the podcast, and uh, I think the thing that really lights his fire, and I don't want to speak for him, but this is my assessment, is the idea of a three-peat. Never been done before. And everybody talks about the GOAT, Tom Brady, and all this stuff. He never did it.
Mhm.
So this is that one thing that's out there, and I think that's keeping the Chiefs. They may be low key, but they're hungry, and I think they
Yeah,
want it. And if they stay healthy, there's no reason they're not going to get it. And a three-peat would be unlike anything that's ever happened. So I'm very excited for this season. I wanted to start off right. I want to start off with a big Chiefs win against the Ravens, and especially at Arrowhead. What do we get? 8 games at Arrowhead. We got to win them all, in my opinion. So, and it all starts on Thursday, September 5th. I hope we come gangbusters.
yeah, they're ready. I mean, this team is ready. You can tell they have done all the right things this offseason. They've provided the depth at the places they needed to provide depth. And Jeff and I have had a lot of fun this offseason talking about how prepared, this team is. And
I
it's
think
going
there
to
are a
be
lot.
the
I
start
think
to the
there are a
season is
lot.
going to be wild.
So well, Joe, I think on paper they're a lot better. They basically retain. I know L'Jarius Sneed's a huge loss, but they basically
Yeah.
retained the entire defense, which I wasn't sure they'd be able to do, and then amplified the one weakness at receiver. I mean, I'm the rest of the league should be pretty scared. I think.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
that's what I say. Like, if we can stay healthy, we haven't lost a step. We're just as dangerous. And these guys have got the experience. They know how to pace out a 17-game season. They know what they need to do when they need to do it. Just stay healthy. That's it. And come December and January, it's gonna be glorious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Rob, one of the things that Jeff and I talk a lot about, and I know we got to get to our ad, Jeff, but the one thing that causes me pause is a guy who walked to school uphill both ways in bare feet in the snow, played with a leather helmet. Okay. So I don't like to go too old school on our podcast and talk about the old Marty days when Marty time was Lombardi time. But my biggest fear about the NFL when you follow a team that's as good as the Chiefs is how well prepared are they going to be for that opening hit when Patrick's played a couple
Mhm.
series, Travis has played a couple series, and as good as they are and as fine-tuned of a machine as they can be at the end of a season, beginning of the season still scares me. And we throw the cliche around,
Oh,
which I believe we coined, Jeff. Nobody seems to believe me, but I call September is the new preseason.
That was all
And
Joe.
and And I'm just, that's like my biggest fear is the team ready to hit? Now, again, we were on the other end of the spectrum where Marty, with Coach Schottenheimer, we used to go like 13, 14 days in a row, full pad two-a-days. Like I had played a full season by the time like late September had rolled around. I was like, I'm ready. Am I retiring now? Is the season over? But today, the players just seem to, it takes them a little while to get their groove. And you just don't know which way the ball's going to bounce in September without having a lot of the hitting and the contact and all those things. So that's the only thing that gives me pause about a fast start for the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. September's dangerous. It's always a dangerous time because I've seen teams that have all this promise and they start out 0-2 and their season's in jeopardy all of a sudden. It's at 0-2 or 0-3. Like you have to win a couple games early. Even if you screw up a couple, you got to win a couple at least just to get through the month. I remember a time during the Schottenheimer years where, in the 90s, we were great. We were always a perennial playoff team. It was just a matter of when we were going to put the right combination together to get the Super Bowl. But I remember it was season opener. It was against the Saints, and the Saints weren't anybody. They
Right.
were a bottom of the barrel team, and they beat us in Arrowhead, which I thought was a lock. I just thought it was a lock.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh yeah, no, when you start the season, that first game matters, especially when you find yourself in December. One game from this or one game from home field or whatever it may be. The game that game in early September really mattered. So, yeah, the stakes are very high right out of the gates. That's why I think why the NFL is so special too, is because you have a small amount of games, numerically. I know they're like car accidents every weekend, but on your body, but numerically it's not that many games, and so every one is critical. Like the stakes are high for every game. So yes, I hope we get out of the gates well. That's going to be huge. And to your point about not hitting, did you see the Detroit Lions coach? He was talking to his players. He said, listen, we're going to be doing a lot of full contact. We're going to be doing a lot. He goes, please bear with me. He goes, I am not trying to get you guys injured. I am not trying to shorten your careers. I'm not trying to do this. I am trying to get you ready. I think this is going to give us the advantage we need or the edge we need. Mm-hmm. And he was making his case to his team for why they were going to beat the tar out of each other, in the preseason. And I'll be interested to see if his philosophy works, because it is a process, and I don't have to tell you, Joe. I mean, but it's a process of getting to that level of collision, getting to that level of body hardening, just the simple toughening of your skin, toughening of everything, that body hardening that happens. It's like a callus. You have to build it up. You can't just start cold. So
there you go.
I'll be interested to see what shakes out.
I love that. I love that experiment. We'll have to watch that experiment, Jeff, with the Lions now.
Totally. Yeah. The beginning of the season, it's a tough slate, which we might get into and more here with Rob Riggle. But first, Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the preseason NFL to college kicking off, Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor Pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today and use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. Well, we're here with Rob Riggle, one of our favorite comedic actors. He's been great in Hangover, Step Brothers, 21 Jump Street, the other guys, you name it. And of course, he's got, as we're going to talk about, his Labor Day Netflix event, the rematch of Chestnut versus Kobayashi. But Rob, the last time you were in Las Vegas was, of course, that Super Bowl championship won by the Chiefs. Rob, you were telling me that during Chiefs games, you have kind of a text thread with those other great Kansas City Chiefs fans and comedic actors, Eric Stonestreet, Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, Heidi Gardner. Can you tell us a little bit more about that thread and how did it go during the Super Bowl? Were you guys cracking jokes? Were you nervous? Or were you like, oh, Mahomes has got this game no matter what?
Well, we have a lot of fun on it. We crack a lot of jokes and we keep each other laughing. We try to balance a lot of bravado with a lot of humility because some of us are superstitious. So but we have a blast,
Who's the
and a lot
most
of it is.
superstitious one, Rob? Out of curiosity, out of all those comedic actors, feel free to throw them under the bus. This is the time to do that.
It's tough. It's really tough to say. I know Stoney's got his rituals. I have mine.
Oh yes.
I've been wearing the same Chiefs T-shirt to every game, especially the ones that matter, especially postseason. Come on, I've been wearing the same one for years. In fact, the Chiefs emblem has already faded off it pretty much. Now it just looks like an old gray T-shirt that probably should be used to wax the car at this point. But yeah, so yeah, we all have our own little picadillos and our own little rituals, but it is fun to have people to check in with and where are you sitting? What are you doing? Did you see that play? And just to check in with. And the thing is that's just one group of friends. I got like 4 or 5 different threads with my buddies in the Marine Corps. I got my buddies from Kansas City. I've got my buddies from KU. I've got different pockets.
Are you able to watch the game, or are you so busy? Are you so busy communicating that it's getting difficult to watch Chiefs games?
Well, I cheat a lot of times. A lot of times I'll just write holy S, Mahomes, goat, whatever. I'll make one thing and then I'll copy it and just paste, and then send it. And then I put it in my pocket. And even if it's blowing up, I'm like, I'm not looking. Especially in critical moments. At halftime, I'll play a little catch up. But if the game's on, the game's on. I'm on blinders. It's got my full attention.
Yeah, speaking of Eric, Rob, I'm sitting there one day and I'm watching the game and I get a direct message on Twitter and it says, "Hey Joe, it's Eric Stone Street. Do you have this picture in your house?" And I'm like, "All right, who is this?"
And what was it?
I'm like, who is this? Sorry. So it was a picture of me scoring a touchdown against the 49ers and he's right behind me. So in his green polo shirt and a black Chiefs hat and tan slacks. So first of all, I'm like, all right, which college nut job buddy of mine is this sending me impersonating Eric Stone Street, right? Like, come on, why is Eric Stone Street DMing me, right? He goes, "No, Joe, this is Eric Stone Street." First of all, I sent back, I said, "Who is this?" He goes, "Joe, this is Eric Stone Street." I'm like, okay. He goes, "Look at this picture. Do you have it in your house?" And I said, "I keep a little picture of it inside of a football frame in my study." And he goes, "Well, I'm in that picture with you." And I'm like, "What?" And he says, "I'm right behind you cheering with my arms up in the air." He goes, "That's me in the back of the end zone." So we have now every time I go to a game, I stop by his suite. He has that picture in his suite. And he has 2 of them actually. So we always stop by and we always check him out. We always say hello and we watch the game. But so I can definitely corroborate your story that he is an absolute focused and zeroed in fan because he doesn't want to talk about anything other than that game that's going on at that moment when we're together watching the game. So yeah, so he's played that thing up. He did it on Julian Edelman's podcast. My wife, people were texting me like, "You're on Julian Edelman's podcast." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Yes, Eric Stone Street's talking again about how he was in a green polo shirt behind you when you scored a touchdown." So yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I loved doing Julian's podcast because I got to talk. He was very gracious to let me talk Chiefs. So yeah, and you're right. Stoney he's a diehard. Like we all are. My first Chiefs game was 1975. So I think Arrowhead was 3 years old. It was a brand new stadium. So I absolutely love everything Chiefs, and Stoney does too. And I was at the game. I think it was the divisional playoff game in 2020. January, and it was we got down 31-0. You remember that? It was second quarter. It was against the Texans, I believe.
Yeah. The great
Texans, and we were getting annihilated. We were getting blown out of the water, and we couldn't stop the bleeding. It was just getting worse and worse. We had such a great season, and we thought this was a team of destiny, and it was unraveling. And my son was very young at the time and hadn't experienced this pain yet. And he started to get the quivering shin and I was like, hold on, son, hold on. Now don't give up. Like there's a lot of football to play. You don't know what's going to happen. We're in it till the end. So just don't start that. I don't want to see that. I said, we got to change something. So I was all the way out in a different part of the stadium, and I was texting with Stoney, and he's like, we were both shell shocked. We were like, what the hell's going on? I was telling my son to be brave, and I was telling Stoney, what the hell's going on? And he said, he goes, well, come on over here, man. He goes, come over here. Let's change the vibe. We got to change it up. And I was like, yeah, you're right. We got to change it up. So I told my son, I go, rally caps. So we put on our hats, we changed them. We did the rally caps. I said, we're going over to Stoney's. So we went over to Stoney's, and the second we walked in, Chiefs scored a touchdown. And then they score another one. And then we get the ball back. And by halftime, we're either tied or ahead. And I mean, it all happened in that time. So again, I don't know if I deserve a ring or not for changing that, but it's one of those moments where we were very superstitious, and we did. And then we went up and we beat the drum together at halftime. And again, I'm not saying the final score was 51-31. That's all I'm going to say.
Listen, our sponsor, Bet Online.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, our sponsor, Bet Online, they're going to be calling you right after this, because there's going to be something. They've got to do something. When you're talking about this many stories and this many coincidences and fan ability to make a team win, Rob, there's going to be a prop bet. It's going to be called the Riggle. I think it's going to be called the Riggle. And it's going to be some kind of, like, if you're in the stadium, odds are going to change dramatically for the Chiefs, period.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
Your lips to God's ears. Let's hope that stays. Let's hope that happens. Let's keep the mojo good.
Rob, in that Forbes article that I interviewed you for previously, you had mentioned that originally your favorite players were Art Still, Deron Cherry, Carlos Carson, great Chiefs players. Is it fair to say, though, that your favorite tackle-eligible lineman who could catch his touchdown, was that Joe Valerio? It could have been Nick Allegretti. I mean, I'm just curious if it was
No, it wasn't Nick. It was Joe. It was always Joe. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's as obvious as the nose on my face. So yeah, there's no doubt.
Listen,
no doubt about that.
I know Rob wanted to hear some old school stuff. I also played a little tackle too, and I was telling some of my friends here in Topeka today that when we played the Raiders once, Rob, and they were beating up on us pretty good, and I was going against Howie Long the whole game, and at one point I horse collared him, at one point I tackled him, and at one point I drug him down by his belt, and he walks up to the official playing him out in California, and he says, "Listen," he goes, "Mr. Official," he goes, "73 held me on that play and got away with it." And I walked up between him and the official, and I said, "Guys, with all due respect, I'm holding Howie on every play and getting away with it. So let's get it right here." And he said, because he was all class, he never complained. But yeah, it was a great time, Rob. Those players that I got to be mentored by, Grunny, John Alt, who was my roommate on the road, getting to getting my butt kicked by Derek Thomas every day, Dan Salamua throwing me around like I'm a rag doll. I mean, Rob, I'm blocking Biff McNutty from Harvard, and then I'm going against Derek Thomas. Like, come on, are you kidding me? Like, what just happened? Like, how did this happen to this kid from Philly?
But you handled him. You handled him. You absolutely handled him. So you did something right.
It was a great era. And, the thing about it, Rob, is the pay back then, obviously wasn't as good as it is today. And I have the receipts on that, because you mentioned about not cashing in your bets that you have because you want to keep those ticket stubs. Well, Mr. Hunt, we played a game in Washington, a preseason game, and one of my high school teammates, Matt Blunden, was our backup quarterback. We actually have been friends since we were 6 years old. So we had so many people go down to the Washington game in the preseason that when I walked through the camp line, we used to get our preseason checks in the food line at training camp. This is how old school this was back in the 90s, right? Yeah. So Herman, our security guard, would hand us our paychecks for the week. Wow. My paycheck was 10 cents. I swear to you, I still have it to this day, 10 cents. So I go back to the alumni game. My daughters, I have triplet daughters, Rob. They're 27 now, but they were about 8 years old, and I introduced them to the Hunt family and to Mr. Hunt and Norma. And I said, hey, Mr. Hunt, I said, I want to give you a copy of this check back, and it was for 10 cents. He goes, Joe, you're the one that's been screwing up the books for the entire 9 years since you retired.
You gotta cash
And I
that
said,
check, Joe.
he says, Norma, he goes, it was Joe. He goes, Joe, he's like, Joe, Norma is the one that balances our checkbook at home. And I said, he goes, Joe, he goes, I got to ask you an honest question. Why didn't you cash this check? I said, well, Mr. Hunt, I said, someday, see those triplet daughters over there that are 8? They're going to turn 16. And they're going to say, Dad, you played for the Chiefs. We won a big Sweet 16 party. I'm going to say, yeah, but this is what Mr. Hunt used to pay us when I played football, guys. This was not, it wasn't the big dollars that you see today. So he was a great owner. He was a great person. And we talk about him more times on this podcast than a lot of people, because he was so influential.
I couldn't agree more. He was such a visionary, really, truly, to see what he saw with the AFL, with the Super Bowl. And now, he was on the cutting edge of Major League Soccer. So, I mean, he's a visionary, and there, those don't come around every day. So he was a special leader, special man.
Rob, we'll get you out on this in honor of Riggle's picks, which everybody out there should listen to the podcast there. It sounds like you're thinking the Chiefs are going to win it all. Give us your Super Bowl predictions. Is it Chiefs? And if so, who do they face in the Super Bowl?
It's Chiefs. It's Chiefs. The path is going to be just as hard as it was last year. I mean, I know the Bills and the Ravens and the Bengals are hungry like the wolf, and they want it, especially those Buffalo fans in that team. And I don't blame them. They're great, but they're not going to do it. Chiefs are going to get there from the AFC. And to be honest with you, it's either going to be the 49ers or the Packers, I think. I say that because I think is it Jordan? I think it's Jordan Love. He's a gunslinger. He really is. And if they can build around him, I think he can lead them somewhere, definitely deep in the postseason. But the 49ers are still just as dangerous if they stay healthy. So, but that's the beautiful thing. There's so much parity in the NFL. There's so much, that's what makes every season, count, because you don't know. Nobody knows. That's the beauty of it. A key injury here, a key injury there. And it's a different season for a city. So,
whoever it is,
I'm saying the Chiefs, and probably the 49ers. It could be a repeat.
Could be a rematch.
It could be a repeat for a three-peat.
For a three-peat. Love it.
Oh my God.
Well done. Well, whoever it is, make sure you have tickets to it and you're wearing that faded T-shirt, because that's obviously great luck there. Rob,
I keep the T-shirt under glass.
I'm putting a C note on the Riggle, and I'm calling it the Riggle. I'm telling you, I'm selling this to Bet Online. Jeff, as soon as this podcast ends, we're calling Bet Online, and we're getting that name of the prop bet called the Riggle in. All right, we're patenting that right now. Get an attorney on the phone, would you?
You know it.
I like it.
You know it,
I like
Joe.
it a lot.
Rob, thank you so much for joining us. And listeners out there, check out his Riggle's Picks. Check out his Netflix event on Labor Day. It's going to be a fun Kobayashi versus Chestnut. Speaking of rematches, well, if you enjoyed this show presented by Bet Online, please subscribe. We're available on your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Luminary, and TuneIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.